what a nice surprise. Because we're about to hit back onto that familiar Sonic compilation game ever since it's been about 3 months ago since we've last touched upon Sonic Origins. Because of this though, not only do we get ourselves with the forms of the brand new Sonic Team logo ever since in Sonic Frontiers, except this time we now stumbled across into a white background version of the logo as opposed to the black background. So, hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog here, aka the Blue Blur, aka Blue Justice, and I am from the likes of the Mexi Toys videos, as you probably expect at this point in time. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the, supposedly enough, the one and true final video for our Let's Play of Sonic Origins. Now, as you can see, that our title screen has now changed its logo into Sonic Origins Plus for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, PC Steam, and finally the Nintendo Switch. Cause around about 3 months ago, that we did somehow showcase off the last few bits and bobs here and there during the course of Sonic Origins as the base game itself. Well, here we are on the true final video for our Let's Play of Sonic Origins, and because of that, since about the fact that it's been about a week ago since when Sonic Origins Plus came out, not only for its DLC expansion, but also with the forms of the physical version here and there as well. So we figured I'm also able to do a special dedicated video upon the forms of the true final video based off from Sonic Origins as a compilation game itself, so we're about to show you guys some Plus content. So because of this though, first off, as you can see on the Island Tour mode, basically we now have Amy Rose alongside with Knuckles the Echidna in every single island in the game, ranging between the forms of Sonic 1 Island, as well as the forms of Sonic CD Island, and pretty much everything else for that besides. But that doesn't end off here, because in Plus content does contain quite a number of these things, ranging between the forms of something you might be familiar with for those who ever experienced the past Sonic compilation games in the past, and also in addition to that, they also managed to bring in not only one, but 2 new playable characters. Well, one entirely brand new character for able to actually access to all 4 of those games, and also as you can see, Classic Knuckles performs a familiar pose ever since in Sonic Advance 2, when you try to able to select Knuckles in Sonic Advance 2, if you're probably wondering. So yeah, that's actually a pretty cool touch, especially concerning of all that particular point where they obviously are going to be continuously trying to bring in some of these familiar references from the past Sonic games as far as this is concerned. And of course Knuckles is actually going to be laying down, as you can see, on the actual Angel Island, which actually represents or referencing the opening cutscene in Knuckles' playthrough in Sonic 3 and Knuckles when you go into Mushroom Hill Zone or anything else like that. Or it's been a very long time since we've last played this game, because this is the reason why I've decided to take a break on Sonic Frontiers for a while, mainly because of the forms of trying to show you guys some Plus content in Sonic Origins as a game itself. Although obviously about the fact that if you're probably wondering to yourself, aren't you supposed to be able to actually go back into Sonic Frontiers at some form or another? Well, I'm actually going to be doing a significant update in regards to the forms of the uploading schedules on Sonic Frontiers, because, if you couldn't tell already, I supposedly I might as well say this right now, we're about to hit back into Sonic Frontiers specifically for changing uploading schedules as far as daily uploads as far as this is concerned, which it was supposedly originally it's going to be on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays as per usual, but I've decided able to change it into Tuesdays and Thursdays this time around, because, well then again though, I'll explain more details about that when we get to the forms of the 7th month in terms of 2023. So anyway, enough about that, so let's go and check things out in Journey forms of what content they've got for the sake of the forms of Sonic Origins Plus. So as you can see, we actually stumbled across into our Game Gear games. As you can see, all 12 of those Sonic games are included, including Japanese exclusive stuff. So we got Sonic the Hedgehog 1, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Sonic Chaos, and as well as Sonic Drift 1, Sonic Spinball, Sonic the Hedgehog Triple Trouble, Sonic Drift 2, Tails Sky Patrol, and Tails Adventure, as well as Sonic Lapwith, Sonic Blast, and finally, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. And as far as I'm aware, in addition to all 12 of these games are now included onto this particular compilation, and it's also worth noting for us about the fact that in addition to that, they also contain 2-player variations of not only in Sonic Drift 1, but also with Sonic Drift 2, as well as Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, strangely enough. Although, conveniently enough though, you can able to play 2 players on this thing, so that might actually feel a bit, you know, kind of a fun experience, despite the fact that most people don't really care about Sonic Drift 1 or 2 anyway, because they both, basically it's like a bad kart racing game, so because of that though, I just want to classify for something right about now, so. But as you can see, I'm pretty much going to be demonstrating the forms of how the Game Gear runs during the forms of the modern consoles. Specifically, I'm testing out Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Originally, I was going to test out Sonic the Hedgehog 1, but you probably already know what to expect. So, either way though, as you can see on screen about the fact that, unfortunately though, unlike the forms of how it does it in Sonic Gems Collection or Sonic Mega Collection compilations, well, specifically Sonic Mega Collection Plus, mind you, that the screen doesn't fill up the entire screen, so this is all likely match up to the actual aspect ratio of the Game Gear screen. And also, some people complain about the forms of the sound emulation when it comes to every single Game Gear stuff, because it doesn't seem able to sync up well enough during the forms of the actual sound inputs. So, kind of a bummer though, and I suppose the only good thing about this compilation as far as this is concerned when it comes to Sonic Origins Plus, for the first time ever for the Microsoft owners, is that they finally managed able to get a chance to experience not only Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on the Game Gear, but also with Sonic Spinball on the Game Gear, as well as Sonic Triple Trouble, Sonic Drift 2, and Tails Sky Patrol, and Tails Adventure, because obviously Sonic Gems Collection never saw light of day on the Xbox system, because it only came out on the GameCube, as well as on the PlayStation 2. So relatively speaking though, it's nice to be able to actually give the second half of those Sonic Game Gear selections of games on the Microsoft Xbox, specifically with Xbox One or Xbox Series X, as to be more specific. So, but ultimately speaking though about the fact that it's also kind of nice about the fact that for the Nintendo Switch owners, they can also manage able to fully experience the Game Gear stuff here and there as well, which, gee, no wonder why, that every now and then the 3DS eShop is dead. So, and also worth noting for us about the fact that, well, it's cool to able to have 2 Japanese exclusive games for the Sega Game Gear department, which are Sonic Drift 1 as well as Tails Sky Patrol, so everything else will be pretty much accounted for, despite the fact that with both of those games combined, they're all entirely English, so for whatever reason, they don't seem able to include the Japanese text for some reason. Well, I know for a fact that for one thing, if you ever got the Japanese version of Sonic Origins Plus, basically the actual game title will change between, with the forms of being Sonic Chaos, alongside with Sonic Triple Trouble, and finally Sonic Blast. Basically they'll get its alteration names, like, you know, Sonic Chaos will become Sonic and Tails, Sonic Triple Trouble will become Sonic and Tails 2, and finally with Sonic Blast became G-Sonic, which, gee, I have no idea why they compromised with that name. Oh yeah, what's nice about this particular point, as you can see, is that you can able to actually use the save states if you have some bit of struggles during the forms of some hardest aspects about the forms of every single Game Gear Sonic titles. So, at the very least, it's actually going to be pretty handy for you, especially noticeable if you try to get yourselves the Chaos Emerald or what have you, specifically in Sonic 1, 2, as well as Sonic Chaos and Triple Trouble, and even Sonic Blast, then more power to you, because even then though, it's been a very long while since we actually stumbled across into save state systems, since in not only Sonic Mega Collection Plus, but also in Sonic Gems Collection as well, at least specifically for the Game Gear games, because as far as I'm aware about the fact that, yeah, it's been a very long time since the majority of the Sonic Game Gear titles has now finally came to its return on a Sonic compilation game. But there's one downside to this though, and that is about the fact that it's locked out behind not only for its paywall for the sake of the actual individual DLC sold separately, but if you try to get the game physically though, I'll explain more details about that once we get to my final thoughts of the Plus content. So as you can see, we actually come across into a surprise mode, and basically what that means is that, as you can see, we have a grand total of 10 mission objectives, as you can see. And every time you complete one of them, like for instance, we did try out one of those Game Gear Sonic games, specifically Sonic the Hedgehog 2, basically if you played in any of them, basically though, you could able to get one of those pieces, and they had a grand total of 10 pieces that we can able to fill that in, and something tells me about the fact that we'll get something grand or rewarding once we're able to actually obtain all that stuff though. But then again, no, we'll save that details for later. So either way, so let's dive right back into the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 1, because as you can see, in addition to about the fact that we're still able to have ourselves, you know, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles as playable, but except now, we finally have Amy Rose as the forms of the playable character. So yeah, for the first time ever since Sonic Advance 3, that was the last time that Amy becomes playable in a 2D plane, since in Sonic Advance 3, because the forms of the partner system. So as you can see, Amy is now finally playable in 2D. So even then though, it's been a very long time, hasn't it? Although what she can do is about the fact that she obviously did the usual same exact movesets as most of the characters, except now her unique ability is called Hammer Rush, where every time whenever you manage able to press the jump button, and I think you have to press the jump button again while you're midair, then you can able to swing the hammer and that you can able to destroy all these enemies. In addition to that, if you try to able to hold down the jump button, then you can probably perform a Hammer Rush, which is kind of like the equivalent to Drop Dash from Sonic in some cases though, except the fact that it only lasted for about a few seconds. So even then though, that must have been saying something. So, and I still have no idea why I'm still basically felt incredibly bad for able to actually be not good at these types of special stages, because I much rather prefer, I would say, Blue Spheres, or potentially speaking with Half Pipes, to me anyway. Although, sure, it might be seems kind of legitimate about the fact that it makes a little bit more sense of why Amy Rose is now a playable character in this game, just for the sake of about that particular time where, also during the forms within exactly the same year, that we're about to get Sonic Superstars, where basically Amy will become playable once again. So, but this time around though with 3D models, so that'll be interesting. But unfortunately though, for that particular playthrough of Sonic Superstars, we'll have to wait until specifically next year in 2024. I'm gonna say that right about now, so we got to wait for this point, guys. So anyway, so that's pretty much about it for Amy Rose as playable character during the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 1. Now let's go ahead and select. Actually, kind of think about it, while the subject of the forms of we're now onto Sonic CD is that we also managed able to have ourselves Amy Rose in that game, but also for the first time ever, Knuckles has now become playable in Sonic CD, despite the fact that we have to rewatch the actual exactly same opening cutscene as well as the ending cutscene, depending on what characters you'd be using. So, but I digress. So, in addition to that though, I still found it a bit weird about the fact that with the opening cutscene as well as the ending cutscene, the audio cues are actually much, much louder than the forms of how it does it, since on the previous re-release on the forms of Sonic CD in mind. So, yeah, this is actually pretty cool stuff that you can able to finally play as Knuckles in Sonic CD. Like, obviously, you can now able to climb walls, as well as gliding, and pretty much everything for the doubt. If you ever played Sonic 3 and Knuckles before, except this time around though is about the fact that one thing I really appreciate about the forms of Sonic CD on Sonic Origins version this time around is that they obviously now include new sprite animations for Knuckles, like when he launches into a spring, he now just goes like a spinny around sprite animation, and once we get to able to showcase off the special stages with him, oh man, it'll make it a little bit more interesting. So because of this though, although obviously about the fact no matter what though is about the fact that I'm pretty sure about the fact that to try to able to hunt for those robot generators alongside with the Metal Sonic holograms will be a heck of a lot more easier this time around, because obviously Knuckles is all about, you know, an exploration factor, so you can basically guarantee you can able to find those robot generators no problem, just like the forms of how it does it what Tails does. Except the fact that Tails can fly, whilst for Knuckles you can able to glide, and then also just climb onto walls and such. And my god, he looks so cool in 3D special stage, as you can see. Although sure, the actual face looks a bit weird at first glance whenever we get ourselves our, well, the only time stone as Knuckles. Well, then again though, I'm actually going to be trying out Knuckles' playthrough. Yeah, his face looks a bit weird though. Like, I know for the fact that what if I looked upon the actual PC mod of the forms of Knuckles in the forms of Sonic CD, it does look very, very accurate, but in this game in particular though, it just feels a bit weird at first. I don't know about you, maybe I'm a little bit nitpicking too much, so, but I digress. So yeah, a few things I want to explain while this is going on is about the fact that, well, today's date, of course, is the final day of June today, in some cases, June 30th, in 2023. So, you know what that means is that tomorrow we actually going to be moving on to the 7th month of the year, which is of course July. So either way though, that should be pretty swell. Especially about the fact that we only got about 3 weeks left now until Pikmin 4 is going to be releasing on the Nintendo Switch. So yeah, that should be pretty cool, especially noticeable about the fact that, well, relatively speaking, it's been, you know, 10 years since the last entry in the series. So, but I digress. So yeah, we basically show off Knuckles in Sonic CD, so this time we're able to let Amy join the phrase, by simply playing as her of course, because one of those mission objectives that we do need to require to able to play as Amy Rose during the forms of one of those segments, like for instance, let's give Metal Sonic a massive payback. Well, to be more specifically, we got to able to destroy one of his holograms as Amy Rose. Now, there is a catch to this though, is about the fact that I'm pretty sure that one of those levels coming up that does requires not only Knuckles, but also with Amy as well, that we do need to hit back onto Wacky Workbench once again, except this time about the fact that we do need to get a lot of emphasis on time travel aspect, and because of that though, about the fact that I'll try to do this off screen, so just to ensure I will be able to actually just caught up to the point where that we'll do one of those mission objectives, so just to ensure that we're able to do a full completionist run. So, but either way though, oh, and by the way, unfortunately though, that Everybody Want to Switch has came out today, which I don't feel like talking about. And I'm sure that someplace else we're able to mention more details onto that. Assuming of course about the fact that if Mario and Luigi will decide to able to mention that or not, but we shall see and find out. So, but either way though. So yeah, let's just go ahead and backtrack for a bit, and oh, what's this? There's Metal Sonic holograms. Let's give a massive payback after what he did to Amy, or Princess Sally, for those who ever played the, you know, the Sega CD version or the Mega CD version. So yeah, it's nice to have the forms of Sonic CD in remastered form, because relatively speaking about the fact that, well, as I said before, in addition you can able to get the DLC digitally sold separately, but also you can able to actually experience the physical version as well. So it's nice to able to have the physical version of Sonic Origins at the very least, so you don't have to necessarily try to keep paying money all the time when it comes to likely re-downloading the digital versions of not only the remastered version of Sonic 1 as well as 2 as well as CD. So relatively speaking though, that might be seems to count for it. So, but I digress. And look how Amy looks in the forms within the 3D special stage, as you can see. Now, I will try to showcase off the forms of how Amy Rose plays out in every single types of special stages in Sonic Origins. So, relatively speaking though, about the fact that now, in terms of the sprite work in the forms of Amy Rose, during the forms of Sonic Origins Plus variation, that she looks a little bit more different, because I know for a fact that she looks a lot different than the forms of how it does in the original sprite of Amy Rose, since when you play as only as Sonic, during the forms within Sonic CD, well, I guess that makes a little bit more sense, because obviously it will be weird if Amy Rose, as a playable version of her, will stumble across into a non-playable version of Amy Rose. That will be like, oh my god, it will be like Back to the Future Part 2 shenanigans all over again. Like, you know, with the fact that when, it's hard to explain really, because it's been a very long while since I actually last watched, Back to the Future Part 2. Well, you probably already know what the actual part I was going to be talking about, so anyway, so now let's move on to back onto Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and no matter what though, they only contain one new feature, and that's what appears to be by the forms of there is another playable selection on here, which that can be also applies for Sonic 3 and Knuckles as well. So as soon as you get into one player mode, as you can see, we have ourselves, 7 playable characters on that slot. Like, in addition to have ourselves Amy Rose as her own, but also we got ourselves Amy and Tails combined. So, that's actually quite interesting, mainly because about the fact that Tails is obviously going to be your partner after all at all times. So relatively speaking though, I kind of wish there was actually a cool combination, just like the forms within Sonic Advance 3. Like, you do have the ability to able to have Sonic and Amy together, or Sonic and Knuckles together, or Amy with Knuckles together, just like in Sonic Advance 3, but unfortunately though, that does not seem the case at all, which I know for a fact that maybe for a PC mods, attempts are able to recreate the actual formula from the likes of in Sonic Advance 3, except there was no tag action, so that's the only reason for it, I guess. So, but either way though, I just have no idea why they did not reference some other Sonic event stuff, aside from one, which is of course Knuckles performs the actual familiar pose from Sonic Advance 2 in one of those Island Tour modes, but maybe I'm just a little bit nitpicking about this at this point. So, look how Amy is so ridiculously over the top with her sprite animation in the special stages. She's almost like running super duper fast, and it's almost like a quick frames per second or something like that for her. Like, I know for the fact that Tails looks a bit more accurate, but still, it just feels a little bit too weird for Amy's sprite animation, as you can see, when she was actually in special stage in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. But ultimately speaking though, the coolest aspect about the films of Sonic Origins Plus though, is that, believe it or not, Amy Rose, for the first time ever, she actually gets a transformation. So because of this though, we'll shut that off until whenever we activate the forms of the level select screen, or potentially speaking if we try to activate all the Chaos Emeralds obtained, including the Hyper Mode here and there as well. Because yes, not only does Amy will have one transformation, but two transformations. So yeah, it'll make it a little bit more interesting, to say much for that. So, but either way though, but then again though, we'll save that until for later. So, but either way. So, something tells me about the fact that the next mission objective I need to complete, and that is about the fact that you simply complete one stage as both Amy and Tails combined. So, that's pretty much about it. So, you're only going to be completing, Emerald Hill Zone, and that's pretty much about it. It's a shame about the fact that with the PlayStation owners, including the Xbox owners as well, they somehow do not get an additional new trophies or achievements, which I know for a fact that they were attempted to, but unfortunately though, that's not seemed the case, sadly, so. And also something's worth noting for is about the fact that recently, KevKing74, he's now recently finished up with the entirety of the Pit of 100 Trials. Well, to be more specifically, he already done 50 floors on the first run, to be more specifically, just trying to showcase off one of those Troubles side quests, but also with the forms of the fact that he did manage to able to replay through floors 1 through 50 off screen, and potentially speaking though, he already showed off the forms of let's just say the halfway point portion of the Pit of 100 Trials, and he did mention about the fact that he was pretty excited about the films of the remake of Super Mario RPG, and on top of that with the films of Pikmin 4, and then potentially speaking with the films of Pikmin 1 plus 2 on the Nintendo Switch. It's a shame about the fact that he doesn't even mention about the films of Super Mario Bros. Wonder, sadly, but that's just because about the fact that I'm still incredibly hyped about that game, especially it's been, you know, 10 plus years since the last original 2D Mario game since New Super Mario Bros. U, not counting the films of Super Mario Run, because it's a mobile game, of course. So, yeah, I guess that's that. So now let's go back on to Sonic 3 and Knuckles, in this case my favorite Sonic game of all time, of course, despite the fact with this controversial opinion about the forms of the music replacement, for the sake of the forms of this version in particular. So, and just like the forms of how it does it in the original version of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, you still be able to actually access the file selection, as you can see, and just like the forms of how it does it in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, in Sonic Origins, you still have the ability to able to play as multitude of characters, including Amy Rose. In addition to that, Amy with Tails combined. So relatively speaking though, it plays pretty much exactly the same as in Sonic 2, so there's no difference to it for this point. And what's cool about this is though, it does have this unique cutscene, so rather than becoming Super Amy at the first glance, so relatively speaking though, that might be seems the case, so. And no matter what though, there's actually not one, but two mission objectives I could possibly do, although aside from the fact that it's not going to be possible on this run, unfortunately. But there is a catch to this though, you can also play as Amy Rose during the forms of in Boss Rush at any point, so that way you can able to get yourselves, you know what I mean, more coins to your disposal, so you can able to actually spend wisely. Although getting those coins every now and then, despite the fact that I've already 100% everything on the actual museum mode, I think the coins at this point in time is now pretty much useless at this point in time, especially because, well, aside from the fact that you can able to continuously use them all over again, if assuming, of course, if you keep failing those special stages at any time at any point, so... But, you know, you get the idea about this point in time, especially noticeable. It's nice to see Amy Rose finally become playable after 20 or so years since in Sonic Advance 3, despite the fact it was actually in classic form rather than the modern design. Now, for I've heard about the fact that if you're trying to able to actually access to a newsletter subscription on Sonic Superstars, you do get yourselves a cosmetic costume skin for Amy Rose for Sonic Superstars. But then again, we'll save that topic and during at some point in the future. So, what's cool about this is, though, is about the fact that we got ourselves a blue, or actually kind of thinking about it, is actually a pink color right next to that particular thing, as you can see right there. Even though it's a bit hard to explain, because as I said before, it's been 3 months ago since I've last played Sonic Origins, because kind of thinking about it though, at this point in time, I'm now sort of able to actually now get into the forms of Sonic Frontiers more often, mainly because I had a lot of fun playing the forms of Sonic Frontiers, despite the fact that there's a lot, I mean a lot of content I can probably tackle through. And during the forms of, as I said before, it's really, of course, about the fact that the uploading schedules needs to be changed. And, of course, once we get into the slot machine, as you can see, which also applies to the forms of in Casino Night Zone, as you can tell, that Sonic's icon is now being replaced by Amy Rose's icons on the actual slot machines. So, keep that in mind, though. So, yeah, that should be pretty cool. So... Now, as far as I'm aware, about the fact no matter what though, I think in terms of the forms of everything else I could possibly discuss here, well, honestly, aside from the fact that they still haven't fixed an issue where certain physics can sometimes manage to able to get a bit off, like every time whenever you go all the way to the top on this particular segment, as you saw for about a few seconds ago, you're still able to actually get a huge burst of speed until you're able to almost go all the way to the right portion of the screen. And it's also short things worth noting for in Marble Garden Zone, they still haven't fixed an issue with the forms of the physics problems, and especially noticeable, they still haven't fixed an issue where basically they just can't afford able to actually get the original version of certain music between, you know, Colorful Night Zone, Ice Cap Zone, and Launch Bay Zone original music, because obviously with the licensing issues still. So, kind of sad honestly, because I would love to able to actually like re-listen to that amazing soundtrack again in the original version of Sonic 3 at the very least, but it might be a bit too late for now because they're focusing on something else, so oh well, no big deal, and it's a shame as well, so but either way. And also, short things worth noting for is about the fact that it will be interesting if Amy's going to be able to bump into Knuckles for the first time, then, well, it's a bit tricky to explain, of course. So, either way, so it looks like we've only got 2 panels left, apparently. So, yeah, I was not expecting for this point right there, but either way, I suppose that might be seems the case, I guess. So, yeah, because kind of thinking about it though, before we dive right into the forms of, you know, in Sonic CD again, just to show you guys the, one of those next mission objectives we can do, I'm actually going to go ahead and, showcase off, Boss Rush mode as Amy Rose, specifically in Sonic CD portion, just to give, Dr. Robotnik a massive payback after what he decided able to cause chaos in Journey forms of in Sonic CD itself. So, of course, you can still play as Amy and stuff like that, so that'll be pretty cool and substantial at the same time, especially noticeable with her hammer in mind. Then basically, though, it's about the fact that you can able to detonate bosses this time around, so yeah, that should be pretty swell. So thankfully, though, unlike the forms of how it does it in Sonic Advance 1, that her jump sprite animation was actually not into a ball formation, whilst it feels pretty much exactly like the forms of Sonic Advance 2 as well as Sonic Advance 3, depending on what partner combination you have, that basically every time when classic Amy jumps, she actually jumps like a ball formation, which I always appreciated, especially because that'll make the game a lot tougher without it. So, gee, I could imagine that might be seems the case though. So, now before we get onto the forms of the wacky workbench in Act 1, let me show you what happens if you die with Amy. So, yeah, her sprites right there does look kind of weird. But even though it's just a shame I can't pause it for about a split second to react. I'll let you decide able to pause the video and just see for yourself. So anyway, I'll meet you guys back in Wacky Workbench Act 1 as Knuckles. So this might take a bit of a while, but I'm sure enough I'll meet you guys there, so...
20 minutes later.
Alright, so a few levels later, then obviously we've now finally made our way to Wacky Workbench presumably for the final time for this particular playthrough, except now, we're now going to be playing as Knuckles in this level. So, again, no matter what though, it doesn't really matter of what character you're going to be using for the last surprise mission objective. That basically, if you either play as Knuckles or Amy, that basically you do need to be able to actually travel into the future, as you can see. And also, as you can see, we ended up in a bad future version of this level for one specific reason for it. Because as you can tell, I didn't get all the time stones during the Forms of Being Quartz Quadrant after all. Because I'm actually going to be saving up once I managed able to play this on my own time for a bit. So yeah, you're able to actually find a secret room, as you can see, and we actually stumbled across into a golden Eggman statue, or golden Robotnik statue. So once you destroy that, it will cause an actual ambush featuring the forms of those bombs that you definitely need to avoid. So yeah, that's the entire purpose of the reason why we're going back onto Wacky Workbench. However though, if you try to able to actually access the level select screen in Sonic CD. Unfortunately though, there's no way you can able to switch between those different characters sadly. So, but either way, I'll explain more details about that once we get to the next topic. So, anyways, the illustration has been completed, and as you can see, the rewards you do get, which there are not only the actual guides for the actual cheat codes, as you can see during the forms of a tutorial option, but also we get ourselves 100 bonus coins, and that's it. So, the reward seems kind of pointless, because as you can tell, we got ourselves, I'm not gonna lie, a pretty cool image with not only with classic Sonic, but also with classic Tails, and classic Knuckles, and classic Amy, celebrates the actual birthday celebration for Sonic for its 32nd birthday after all. Because get it about the fact that, you know, Sonic Origins did came out about a year ago, up to this point. So as you can see, we've now managed able to actually access to the actual cheat codes for Sonic 1. Oh yeah, I forgot to show you guys the controls, instructions for Amy Rose to see how she plays out. So yeah, I've already explained about this already. So either way, speaking of already showing you guys already, ever since about 3 months ago, it did show you guys the actual combination of certain button combinations in order able to actually access to the level select screen. Although except for Sonic CD, because obviously you do need to do complete the actual time attack mode within under 25 minutes or something like that, or something relates to that. So yeah, I've already technically shown you guys that since 3 months ago, as I said before. But except, no matter what though, I think we almost get to the point where I might as well show you guys one last thing. Before we get on to the forms of the continuation of more uploading schedules on Sonic Frontiers, as I said before, it's going to take place now and then on Tuesdays and Thursdays now, because, well, then again though, we'll explain more details about that once we get into the actual beginning portion of July, well, assuming of course if Mario and Luigi will give us a hint later down the road. So, either way though, that's saying something. So, anyway, so here we are back onto the level select screen once again, except now we actually have more features. Well, there's only one new feature I can possibly bring out. That's what appears to be by the forms of they now added in not only player number 4, but also player number 5, which actually represents, I would say player number 4 actually represents Amy all alone, and if you try to select player number 5, as you can see on the actual player count, it actually stands for Amy, Rose, and Tails together. So because of this though, I still have no idea how do I supposed to able to actually access the debug mode in not only in Sonic 1, but also in Sonic the Hedgehog 2 as well, because every time I tried able to actually input those correct combination codes, like I've already just done right there, but every once in a while it just never seemed to work on me. Like, I know for a fact that for Sonic 3 and Knuckles it still works, which I still have no words, so... But either way though, we'll just go ahead and showcase off the actual random special stage for some reason, because I was originally gonna say that I was originally trying to show you guys the forms of the secret, well-hidden special stages you find for every single games combined. But sadly though, I couldn't seem to able to make them work. Like, I was going to try to show you guys Special Stage 7 in Sonic 1, as well as the 8th special stage in Sonic 2, and especially noticeable with this very well hidden special stage during the forms have been in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, but no matter how many times I was getting able to try to make it work, but then next thing you know, I basically give up on this process. So unfortunately though, that's the only thing I'm going to be skipping for the time being. So I know it seems kind of sucks though, because about the fact that I just want to get this video out of the way before I go back onto Sonic Frontiers for the beginning portion of July. So, but either way though, but that might take a bit of a while to able to actually get back into Sonic Frontiers, mind you, because, you know, I just need able to get my version update for Sonic Frontiers on the PS4 version, because I need to download the second free DLC to be able to get that out of the way. So, but as I said before, there's going to be more to come when it comes to Sonic Frontiers, especially about the fact that now we got, you know, free DLC, as far as we already on about that already a couple of amount of times. So as you can see, since that we've already actually activated all of the Chaos Emeralds obtaining parts for that code, but also about the fact that we're now able to see the notification saying you can now able to turn into Super Amy, which that will be pretty interesting. The only time exception being is of course Sonic the Hedgehog CD, because they are time stones and not Chaos Emeralds. So understandably so, because obviously you're able to restore piece of the actual little planet, so that makes it a little bit more obvious sense. So, but either way though, so yeah, if you manage able to select, as I said before, player number 5, then obviously you get Amy with Tails, just like the forms of how it does it in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, as well as Sonic 3 and Knuckles. But in order to able to actually trigger this in Sonic 1, you need to do a level select screen, and that's all there is to it. So, at least assuming, of course, you would able to actually activate the actual a cheat code for it. So, anyways, let's go ahead and press the X button on my Pro Controller, and look how Amy looks in her super form. Despite the fact that most people are speculating that she'll be like pure super gold, but it turns out it's gonna be likely peachy color. So yeah, it was a bit meh, but at least on the other hand, she does look pretty cool with her super form, I'm not gonna lie. Although I'm pretty sure if you're trying to able to actually access the forms of the level select screen in Sonic 3 or something like that, then obviously about the fact that you can able to do, I would say in Doomsday level, which I was expecting to able to try that out, but unfortunately though I didn't get enough time for it, sadly. So what's cool about the forms of Hammer Rush, as you can tell, that every now and then you can now able to actually smash the rocks as the hammer. So yeah, that's actually pretty cool and dope and everything, you know, kinda like what Knuckles did manage able to budge over the forms of not only certain rocks, but also certain walls as well. So that would be more likely like a powerhouse kind of syndrome, I suppose. But either way though, that's as far as saying goes, yeah. So, yeah, in terms of everything else I can show off about the fact that, sadly though, about the fact that there's no way I can able to show you guys Super Amy in Sonic 2, because I'm pretty sure she plays out pretty much like in Sonic 1, because relatively speaking though, about the fact that, well, as I said before, about the fact that there's no way you can able to switch between those characters, and not only in Sonic CD as in a level select screen, but also with the forms of the sound test menu to able to actually access to this special, you know, the actual hidden special stage, you know, with the forms of the Robotnik space in the background. So relatively speaking though, that could be also applies for Sonic the Hedgehog 2, as soon as you're able to do a level select screen combination. Yeah, as you can see, there's no character switching system, so kinda sucks though, kind of thing about it, which is especially noticeable about the fact that I would love to able to actually show you guys Super Amy in Sonic 2. But don't worry, once we get the forms that have been, you know what I'm saying, with Sonic 3 and Knuckles, it will be a sight to behold, especially noticeable because not only we'll see, I would say, Super Amy, but also something tells me we will come across into Hyper Amy, which I'm sure that might be a little bit interesting as far as this is concerned, but then again though, that's as far as saying goes, yeah, that's why I can really talk about the actual, like, some other contents worth noting for, so. But I'm sure there's something else I would like to show you guys for this point, is about the fact that I did manage able to test it out on my own time, that basically if you try to activate the debug feature in the forms of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, I did test it out in Sonic Mega Collection version of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and basically though, one cool thing about the forms of that particular debug feature is that you can able to actually let Sonic experience during the forms of Knuckles' route in certain stages in Sonic 3 as well as Sonic and Knuckles. And because of that though, it just makes a ton of replayability. Now I'm pretty sure that it's still possible during the forms of Sonic Origins for that particular point, because unlike in Sonic Mega Collection version of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, or a standalone Sonic 3 and Knuckles as a cartridge version or something like that, basically though is about the fact that there's no way you can able to actually access to other areas, because if you manage to get a lot of progressioning, let's just say by the end of the forms of Act 1 or Act 2 of Angel Island, if I was trying to able to go through Knuckles' route, and if I made all the way to the very end, apparently I died during the forms of by the end of that particular Knuckles' route as Sonic, which that seems very bizarre in my theory, but I'm sure it'll fix that. For the sake of Sonic Origins version of that particular process, which I guess that's a good thing, just to show you guys the alternative way to able to get to the other place to the other. So yeah, I guess that pretty much summed up as such. So, but let's get into the forms of my only main gripe I have with the forms of, you know, with Sonic Origins Plus. If you ever get the game physically though, you notice about the fact that if you double checked on the back cover of the game, you realize about the fact that it does show you some cool content. However, if you pay attention to the forms of that tiny text with that yellow outline box with Amy Rose and Game Gear box arts, basically though, you get out a downloadable voucher with it. And to make matters worse, it does contain the expired date, meaning until by that time, until 2033, the actual code will be expired. And because of that though, the future looks bleak at this point, especially noticeable for those who haven't missed out on purchasing Sonic Origins Plus physically. Well, good luck trying to able to get it on digital stores, either on the PlayStation Network store or Microsoft Store, and even Nintendo eShop for that matter. Well, good luck, especially noticeable. Well, the good thing about this is though, it only costs it for about, I would say $8.99 for the digital DLC version or something like that, or $9.99 or something like that. Mind you, I haven't exactly looked upon the actual US price counts as far as this is concerned, so either way, that must have been saying something. So, now of course, I did somehow activate the forms within the, well, all the Chaos Emeralds obtained, and not only that, I have to do this twice to able to get all the Super Emeralds obtained, so that should be interesting. So, anyway though, so yeah, let's just go ahead and show off Angel Island for the final time, just to show you not only with Hyper Amy, but also just try to show you guys that it is possible you can able to actually go into Knuckles' route by simply able to actually activate the forms of the debug feature as far as this is concerned. So yeah, aside from all that stuff though, let's talk about my final thoughts of the entire Sonic Origins Plus as far as the expansion goes. I think it's actually pretty cool, although it is a bit disappointing at the same time, because relatively speaking though, as far as you probably already know, that most of those Game Gear games are not directly enhanced, they're just more likely like an emulated version of the already existed Game Gear stuff. So as a result, it's a very similar situation as in Super Mario 3D All-Stars. But relatively speaking though, and just like in Super Mario 3D All-Stars, if you're assuming of course about the fact that the actual the DLC voucher thing, if you get the physical version of Sonic Origins Plus, as I said before, it does contain the expiry date, like until 2033, well, the DLC voucher thing will be expired for good, and that's not a good sign, especially noticeable because, again, if you miss out on this, well, I can imagine about the fact that it's gonna get a lot of, price paywall, by that time until eBay rolls around or something like that, similar to Super Mario 3D All-Stars physical version or something. So, but again, time will tell, assuming of course if we do somehow live still for the sake of our YouTube channel's case. So, but yeah, I really love the fact that you can play as Amy Rose, and also I just love a gem pack full of content you get, and as a result, it is a pretty cool compilation game, I'm not gonna lie, despite the pricing is super ridiculously overpriced at one form or another if you're trying to get, you know, every single content on there, which is ridiculously over the top, especially after about a year ago since when Sonic Origins first came out. So either way though, yeah, let's talk about Hyper Amy. She plays pretty much like Super Amy basically, so nothing different from there. So anyways, let's go and activate the debug menu right there to go through Knuckles' route, just in case we can able to go through Knuckles' route as Amy. So it'll be pretty interesting, and it's a good thing we did have somehow got not only Amy but also with Tails as well. So relatively speaking, that'll make it count for it. So. But, yeah, let me know in the comments down below for the question of the day. Have you experienced Sonic Origins Plus as the expansion to Sonic Origins? Because I'd like to hear your thoughts. Especially notable, do you like certain aspects about this expansion? Or there are certain stuff that does bother you for the sake of this expansion? So, because I'd like to hear your thoughts. So, because I was expecting about the fact that I was originally go ahead and trying to deal with the next video recording session in Sonic Frontiers for this point today, but as I said before, that the uploading schedules needs to be changed a little bit, and usually until likely next Tuesday and Thursdays and beyond. So that's why I'm usually going to be able to stick around for playing Sonic Origins Plus for the time being. So just to wait for the forms of our moments that we can finally play Sonic, Pikmin 4, as well as other titles here and there like Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and that's all there is to really think about it, including Super Mario RPG as well, so. But, yeah, I guess there's not much else you can say about this for this point, guys, even though I've already explained quite a lot of bits here and there. But I'm sure enough, though, about the fact, as I said before, the actual save state system on the actual Game Gear stuff is actually super duper handy if you have struggles with any other harder levels. Specifically, if you're having struggle with the forms of, the entirety of Sonic Lapwith, then obviously you can save state at any point. If you have struggling with the actual depth perception, even some of the most annoying levels in the game. And on top of that, if you have a lot of tough time during the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on the Game Gear, if you have struggling with boss fights and obtaining the Chaos Emeralds, because most people also complain about the fact that there's no Master System version of not only Sonic the Hedgehog 1, but also with Sonic the Hedgehog 2, alongside with Sonic Chaos and Sonic Blast, and even Sonic Spinball as a result, because obviously with the Master System versions of those games, these are more likely a definitive way playing those games, because you not only see the horizon, but also the screen size is actually really good. But unfortunately though, we have to cope with the Game Gear tiny screen, so because of this though, it feels a bit jarring every now and then, but aside from all that stuff though, it's just for bragging rights, I guess. Especially noticeable if you want to experience those games for yourself. So, I think for the most part, that pretty much does it for the sake of the forms of the amount of content you get for Sonic Origins Plus. So, yeah, can I still recommend the forms of that particular Sonic Origins Plus as an expansion to Sonic Origins? Personally speaking, I feel a little bit mixed on it. I mean, there are some good parts for sure, but a lot of times though, they come off some of the most questionable design choices of the expansion. So, yeah, I hope you guys do enjoy this particular random video out of nowhere, but I just want to get this out of the way so I can go back to Sonic Frontiers at some point until in July. So this is me, Sonic the Hedgehog, and I'm from the likes of the Mexi Toys. And until then, I'll see you guys back at Sonic Frontiers at some point in July. See you guys then.